okay with that. There we go. Recording should now be in progress. And we know folks will join us over the course of our time together, but I do want to go ahead and get started because I know we have so much ground to cover, so much conversation to have tonight. My name is Kat Frively, and I am the new executive director at Birdability. I am delighted to be joining you all tonight for my first Birdability Week in any kind of official capacity. So I am so glad that you are here to celebrate Birdability Week with us as well. As you all know, it's a celebration of birders with disabilities and other health concerns, as well as an opportunity for folks to share resources, to share ideas, to help the birding community become even more accessible and inclusive. And we want to make sure we're welcoming as a birder community to every single body, right? So I wanted to remind folks that if you haven't yet, that we would love it if you wanted to sign up to join us for any of our other events. And I'm going to put links in the chat in just a couple of minutes that will allow you to navigate your way to sign up for therapeutic sketching tomorrow night. I know that is going to be a really terrific way of thinking about using birding as a mindfulness practice, as a mental health practice, as a practice of being with birds and yourself, right? And then on Thursday, we have trivia night, and that is going to be so much fun. We just met with Nate Swick and Adriana from the ABA, and I think we're going to have such an exciting night of getting to answer questions that I have to tell you ranged from, oh, I got that, to where did you even get that information? So this is going to be a lot of fun. I hope you all will join us on Thursday. I wanted to also tell you our newest t-shirt is available. Our winner this year for the art contest for the Birdability Week t-shirt is Clara Dar, and it is a gorgeous design. I will also put the link in the chat just after this for you to click on and go check out our campaign on Bonfire and to get yourself a Birdability Week 2023 shirt. And our work is only possible because of all of you all. And so I'm also going to put in the chat, of course, a link to donate, because it is your support that helps us get to continue helping to make birding accessible and helping to introduce folks to birding, and to talk about the ways that access needs play into how welcomed we feel, right, into birding spaces. And really tonight on our 4th annual Birdability Week kickoff event, what better thing to do than to have the heart of our organization, our founder, of course, Virginia Rose, and so many of the captains who are going to speak directly to some of the things that allow birding to be a joyful experience when you have access needs. So Virginia, if it's okay, I'm just going to turn it right over to you now.
Sure. And thank you so much for joining us, Kat. We are so excited to have you on as an executive director extraordinaire, and we just couldn't be happier to have you. So thank you again so much for being with us. And I also want to welcome everybody else who's out there. Happy Birdability Week, guys. My week started a little early in that I was able to join the Montgomery Parks, Maryland group for a conversation earlier today. And it was fun, and there were lots of people there, and we just jumped right into all of the fun that is birdability. And so just to tell you a quick little bit about me, Virginia Rose, I'm the founder of Birdability, and it has been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun, and mainly after birding in a wheelchair for 20 years and not seeing any other disabled people on the trails, I wondered, where are they? And so I started looking for them. I'm pretty shameless about that, I have to say. I'll see anybody who looks like they have a mobility challenge and say, "Hey, do you bird?" They're like, "Who are you?" Why? Anyway, um, so my big focus was to try to help anybody with an access challenge, whether it be invisible or not, to learn about birding. And so that's what started in 2018. And then we were lucky enough to get Birdability Captains on board. One of the early ones was Nicole. And Nicole has just been a godsend. She seems to know how to do every single thing. And I like to say that I can't do anything but bird in a wheelchair. Everybody has to do everything else. So thank goodness for Nicole. And Nicole, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thank you, Virginia, for your very kind words. I have loved every second of the years that I've been here with Birdability. I started as a Birdability captain back in 2020. And since then, I now take the role of coordinating our volunteer program, the Birdability Captains, and some of our communications. I am autistic, but I also struggle a lot with pretty severe chronic pain and chronic illness. I am from Connecticut, and I work when I'm not with Birdability. My other job is with the Nature Center here in Connecticut, where I am an educator and a bird and wildlife rehabilitator. And I also would just like to repeat some of what Kat said earlier. We have some really great events coming. Trivia night on Thursday is going to be wonderful. We had such a great time planning it yesterday with the ABA. Field sketching tomorrow will be with my dear friend and old colleague. That's going to be wonderful. So please check out those other events and all of our registration links. And maybe Shauna would like to introduce herself.
Sure thing. Hi, y'all. I'm Shauna Dudley, and I'm from Austin, Texas, and I kind of came to birding late, like not that long ago at all. I used to not like birds, y'all. But I loved being outdoors. I used to do all kinds of things outdoors. And then I had a surgery that was botched 13 years ago that left me unable to walk with significant severe nerve damage in my foot that turned into CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome. And so I stopped. I was unable to continue doing all the things that I love doing outdoors. And I was unable to be as active as I was. And I have amazing family who kind of stopped with me, which, you know, that's something that happens, right? When someone is disabled, many of their family and friends also stop doing the activities. At least my family did. My family, you know, we would camp and they were like, well, we're not going to go do this or this because you can't. Or we'd start to take a hike and I'd say, well, I'll just wait right here and y'all go on. And they wouldn't, which was quite lovely for me. But they missed out on a lot of things as well. And I did learn to, by the grace of a leadership program that I lead where I work, which is Texas Parks and Wildlife, which is a great place to work when you love the outdoors. Leadership program I led, they taught me how to kayak and helped me get in the water and made it very comfortable and easy for me to do. So I was able to add kayaking to sitting in a rocking chair watching the world go by, which is pretty much all I was doing outdoors, was sitting in a rocking chair watching the world go by. And then my younger son found Birdability and said, Mom, this is a thing, like you need to be involved, you need to bird, you need to do this. And my son was a bird nerd of his own, and then just said, you've got to do this, Mom, you've got to get out and you've got to see the birds and you've got to do that. And you can do it from most of the time I'm either walking with a cane or using a knee scooter. But this past weekend, I was at a state park birding for several hours before the eclipse, and I used, many of our state parks have grit wheelchairs. So I used their wheelchair, and I got to do so much because I I was free, to use Mark's word. I was freer in that wheelchair than I would have been had I used my scooter or my cane. And so yeah, I now love birding, even though I've really only been birding about a year, but it's kind of fabulous. And it's just one more thing that I can do outdoors, which is where I love to be. And I'm actually spending this week teaching a class where we get to spend some time outdoors. And I took Mark's advice, and I'm in a powered wheelchair this week to sort of save some energy for myself so I can have a little bit of my own life over the weekend. So that's a lot, but that's about me a little bit. So thanks.
Thank you, Shauna. I really do like the way you said that a power wheelchair is freedom. It's
Mhm.
such an important way to look at things. Okay, who goes next? And in the interest of time and getting to talk a lot about these questions, let me go. Mark, you want to go?
Sure.
Dr. Misty Ladd, you want to go? Mark, go ahead.
I'll be happy to. My name's Mark Paller. I'm in Minneapolis, and Shauna already hinted at my story. So all my life, I was interested in the outdoors. Used to backpack all the time. When we moved to Minnesota, some 40 years ago, we started boundary water trips every year. I always bicycled on the weekend. And muscular dystrophy has really slowed me down in the last 10 years. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I needed to use a power wheelchair because I just couldn't walk a tenth of a mile or so. And I was contemplating retiring, and I was looking for a new activity, something I could do with the outdoors, with my free time, and something that I could do in a wheelchair. So for me, I haven't had to adapt my birding to my disability. For me, birding was how I adapted to my disability. And it's been a wonderful experience, because not only have I been able to be out in the outdoors, but I've been able to join organizations like Birdability and help others, not only people who have disabilities, to get more access to birding, but just people who aren't interested in birding because it's spectacular. And so, sometimes I'm out on a walk and people see me looking right above at an osprey, and 90% of them will walk by, but 10% of them will stop and say, "What are you looking at?" And I say, "Look right up there, there's an osprey." And they go, "Oh my God, I'm going to become a birder." Misty, I think you're on next.
No, perfect. Perfect. Well, I seem like I may be the most unlikely birder in the group. So I don't know if we have any other people on, but I was not a nature person. I actually was all about city and concrete. The more of it, the better. So I grew up in the country, but ever since college, I preferred not natural anything. And so I actually had quite the fear. I actually had a phobia of birds. So if I saw a pigeon, I would literally cross the street to avoid walking near a pigeon. When my family would go to the beach, I was the one sitting in the car with all the windows rolled up in the heat, because I was afraid that the seagulls were going to come in the car and get me. So I even have the cutest little picture that I found of when my daughter was 12 and her and my mother went to feed the parakeets. And she, at 12, wrote a snarky email that said, "Bet you wished you were here, Mom." And I dug that out when I moved, because now I do wish I was there. And it's so adorable. But I have my mobility issue is that I only have one good lung. And so my issue is I can't breathe in the heat, and I live in Arkansas, so that's 80% of the year it's too hot to breathe, and I can't walk very far. So I do most of my birding from my car in my convertible. so that I could get a good 360-degree vision inside the car. So that's fabulous. But I came to birding during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, because my lung issue, my pulmonologist said you cannot get this. So I was basically under house arrest for 18 months during the pandemic. I couldn't see my family, and I couldn't do my other activities were ballroom dancing and target practicing. So I couldn't do either of those during the pandemic. And so I was looking for, as a private investigator, I'd always taken photos for evidence, but I'd never taken photos just for fun. So during the pandemic, I started taking a whole lot of photography classes to try to get better at photography, because that's basically the only thing I could do, was to sit on my back deck and take photos for free with nobody around me and my dog. And so a couple of those had started showing bird photography, and I was like, wait, I hear birds out there. And so I started taking every bird education class and every online tutorial and every YouTube channel I could find. And so that's how I got started. And then I got started seeking for an organization that promoted accessibility, because that I found there's not a lot of that in the places that I go. And what usually holds me back from certain areas, especially in nature, is I don't know the terrain. So I can't know, because I can't walk very far. I can't just start off on a trail, even if it's flat, because I don't know how far, or what we used to always say when I take swimming lessons, or when you swim at the lake, is you never want to swim out too far that you can't swim back. And so it's kind of the same thing. I never want to start off on a trail if I don't know how far to go. And so that's when I found Birdability, was with the Birdability map. And I was like, oh, that's the solution. And so when I joined Birdability, there was not a single map in Arkansas on the map. And so I look forward to continuing the relationship and hopefully get a whole map full of birdability maps in Arkansas.
I love it. Thank you, Misty. Does anybody else want to say anything before I start asking questions?
I
No?
think it's 7:20. I think we should dive right in.
Let's do it. All right. So I'm looking at all these questions, and I know I don't have to do them in order, do I? No. All right. So one of the things I wanted to know is there anything that you've learned about birding with a disability that you wish you had known from the very beginning? And by the very beginning, that could mean before you even had a disability, or when you knew that you were going to be birding or outdoors differently. So the question again is there anything you've learned about birding with a disability that you wish you knew from the very beginning? Mark?
Sure, Mark.
I can start. Because I started birding around the same time, I started using my power chair most of the time. I was a little too, so I was in a chair. So people obviously knew I had some type of disability, but I was a little too reticent about if I went on a walk with a group, which was a good way to get started as a beginning birder. I was a little too hesitant to tell the leader what were my limitations, which aren't very much when I went to a place I already knew was basically accessible, unless we went off the path or something like that. And I've become much more comfortable just telling people or asking people for help. So last Saturday, on the place where we go on group walks twice a week during migration, there were actually 3 tree trunks that had fallen the night before. And I could get over one of them by myself, and probably could have pushed my wheelchair over one by tilting it back and forth, because I can get up and do that. But I needed to ask for help for the other 2. And I just, rather than waiting for someone to look at me and volunteer, I just said, people, I need 2 volunteers to help me. I mean, the chair's only 60 pounds, so one person could have done it, but and I think that puts everybody else at ease, because no one wants to always be offering help to me. People are very nice. They see, when there's a big crowd and I can't see over their shoulders, and either I have to stand up or they'll move out of the way, but they don't want to offer too much help, which is great, because I don't want people to treat me so differently. So I think I've learned to just take the lead, and that puts everybody more at ease, and it works out better for me.
Agreed. Nicole, were you going to jump in there?
Yeah, I certainly can. First, I want to apologize. I'm like stifling a yawn every 10 seconds. I like 7:30, I'm like crashing. But I was gonna say, if there was one thing, I could have like realized when I first started birding, was to do it my own way, in the way that worked for me, and not the way that I saw everyone around me doing it. I feel like I was always pushing myself with like these high expectations of doing it the way everyone else does it, and identify every single bird and take that trail that is going to be too much for you to see that bird. And when I realized I didn't have to do it that way, it became so much more enjoyable. Like, for a long time, when I was pushing myself to bird in the ways that are typical, I wasn't enjoying myself. And then it's like, why am I even doing this? And then I realized, when I started realizing what works for me, and that I don't have to bird the same way everyone else is doing it and go really hardcore and all that, like, I started enjoying it so much better. And yeah, that's, figure out what works for you, and don't worry about what everybody else around you is doing.
Right. Good point. I see all of us doing this with our heads, where every one of us I know has our own experience with that. So thank you, Nicole. Shauna, I see you shaking your head. You want to jump in here?
Oh, I can. It's really not that different. I think it's just I agree with Nicole about, do it your own way. My first big exposure to birding, other than my son just saying, "Mom, come on, get out there and learn and enjoy the birds." But I worked very closely with some folks who were setting up a maps station, and it was look at the, get the bird out of the net and look at the bird and try to age the bird. And I was under a lot of pressure to get it right. And I was like, whoa, this is hard. It was exciting. I really enjoyed learning all of that. But I thought, oh, I can't do this every time. Like, I just want to go outside and learn and look and enjoy. And if I don't identify it correctly, then whatever. Like, it's not a test. I'm not in school anymore. I'm not going to be an ornithologist. I am not an ornithologist. I'm not a wildlife biologist. And I was spending my time with all of these wildlife biologists, and I was like, they're like, well, come on. And I said, y'all, I have a PhD in curriculum and instruction. I can teach you how to talk about this, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I think when I much like Nicole said, just kind of let go and said, well, this is really cool for today, but this isn't how I'm going to do it all the time. I'm not going to be going around learning the codes. I mean, I know a northern cardinal is a NOCA when we have to do it on a map station, but I'm not going to be setting up map stations. I can't even walk to get the bird out of the net. So, I do what I want to do. And if this past weekend, I just looked. I wasn't writing anything down. My son was like, did you hear that bird? Do you want to put it in your journal? I was like, no, I don't. Not today. I just want to enjoy this day. And I had all four, my two sons and both of their boyfriends. And I was like, I just want to know. I'm just going to do what I want to do today. And that's going to be fine. So I think it's that, just do what you want to do and what's comfortable for you and the way that you want to do it is the most important. It's a hobby, y'all. It's not a job. So enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Misty, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I just basically the same way. I started off as your typical overachiever, trying to take, every photo of every thing that flew by, and then I wouldn't post any photos until, I got a really clear one. And then, I just got some really cool birds, and I just posted the photos and realized that all my families and friends, they don't see birds in the same way that us birders see birds. And so they're fascinated with anything you share. And so I just found it to be so free after I stopped trying to get the perfect picture, and just started posting funny stories about the birds in my backyard, and people love it. They love sharing and getting to see things. And now I have, my phone blows up all the time. People are like, "What's this bird? What's that bird?" And so it's a great thing to just connect people, period. Whether you have a disability or you don't, it's a really great connector. And who doesn't need more great connections with people? So I find it's just really great.
Um, so I'm thinking about all kinds of ways that I might respond to this question. And, I hate to say this, but I feel like my very first response was, I knew everything already. It was like, but I was assertive, and I knew, kind of like what you were saying, Mark, earlier. I knew that in order to participate in the field trip that I had to call the leader ahead of time. Why would you not do that? I mean, it was kind of I don't know. For me, it was like, look, I want to go, and I want to put the leader at ease. So I want, and maybe I'm touching on something that we should talk about in more depth, about ways in which a disabled person tries to put other people at ease. But I knew that in order for me to feel comfortable in that field trip, I was going to have the leader know that I'm fine. I'm going to be taking care of myself. He or she doesn't need to do anything special for me at all. And and this happens all the time, finally, that I told the leader, I don't want you to change your itinerary, and I don't want to interfere with the experiences of the other birders. So please don't worry about me at all. I'll be just as happy in the parking lot as if you guys need to go marching up a trail, then go on. And of course, everybody laughs now because they say, Virginia, you're going to get all the birds we get anyway, only you didn't have to climb up 4 miles of mountains. So anyway, I just felt that that was important to make my way that way. And other than that, I feel like I guess I just wish I had started earlier, because it didn't really dawn on me for a very long time that other people with disabilities could have wanted to do what I was doing. And it just, it took me a while to look around and go, oh, where are these folks? So anyway, it's a very interesting subject, and we could dive deep in it, but is there anybody else who wants to add something?
Virginia, the only thing I would add to that when I think about that is if you're already a birder, okay, that's one thing, because you feel comfortable doing the birding. If you're a beginner, as I was, and you're going out with people who you later learn are really, really good, there's that double thing of, look, just as a beginner, I don't want to ask stupid questions. Okay, I don't want to be a problem for the group. Then you turn out that you're the person who can't go down this trail, and so the group has to decide to go down this one versus the other one. I think that's an extra set of potential inhibitions where some people wouldn't even venture out. You have to be very self-confident to do that. And
Well,
I would encourage people to be assertive, but not everybody feels comfortable doing that right at the beginning.
right. And I have to say, I was a brand new birder. I didn't know anything either, but I was very willing to just kind of jump right in and see what happens. And part of this is the explorer, and I definitely want to have a conversation about this because I love to say to people, unearth your inner explorer because she's probably your best self. And I think that on so many levels because, what does it mean to be an explorer? So can that be our next question?
I'm thinking maybe we can certainly get to that, but in the interest of time, I think question number 3 was one we really wanted to get to.
Okay,
And
let's
then
do
we'll
it.
see if we have questions from the audience for like the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Kat put in the chat that anyone who wants to do suggest any questions for Q&A at the end, certainly please feel free to put them in the chat.
Yes.
And maybe we can start a discussion about everyone's preferred way to go birding and the access features that you look for when you're choosing a birding site.
Absolutely. All right. So, let's see. Do you want me to read that question number 3, or did you just ask it?
I just said it.
Okay.
I just did it.
Okay, great. Who wants to start off?
I'll jump in because my answer is quick. I've done all my birding either in my own backyard or from my convertible. So I still, even as a birdability captain, have never been on a proper birding group activity. So actually, I have one bird mentor that I met in a virtual chat room during the pandemic that drove through Arkansas, and her husband took me to a park and walked around and pointed out things, and it was so fascinating to see things through their eyes. But kind of like Shauna, I couldn't walk for 2 days after that. So, but it was super exciting. So I do all my birding, usually, like I said, me and my dog and the top down. Sometimes in the rain. So I have went birding and wanted to see a painted bunting so bad that I put an umbrella up and had the windows down and the umbrella up sitting in the car. So, but I didn't get to see it. I heard it, but I didn't see it.
That's a great image, Misty.
It is, it is. I'll jump in just because I was already making noise. And I have to say, Misty, I'm so sorry to say this, but the very first bird that came into the net when I was working that map station was a beautiful male painted bunting. And the volunteer that was working would not let me hold it, but I got real up close and personal with that painted bunting. And the first bird that I ever held, the next one that came in was a leased flycatcher, but I really wanted to hold that painted bunting, but he wouldn't let me. But I typically, especially because I work for Texas Parks and Wildlife, I have pretty much unlimited and free access to all 89 of our state parks and all 50 of our wildlife management areas. And so I typically go to state parks or wildlife management areas. And I also have the beauty of having a lot of wildlife biologists around. And so I've been really blessed with that kind of thing. But then I also have my bird nerd son, and we just sometimes, go out back or walk through the neighborhood. And so really what I look for in terms of access, because I know that's part of the question, for me, I need a trail that's accessible to me, right? And that's the thing, like you can call a state park and say, what are your trails like? And they don't know what accessible is to you. Neither for an able-bodied person. You can't tell someone, oh, well, no, it'll be no problem to you. They have no idea. Like, they don't know if you're some kind of marathon runner as an able-bodied person or some kind of marathon, hand biker as a disabled person. They don't know what's accessible to you. So I just, it's like, just describe your trails to me. And basically I need to know, I know they probably don't know the exact degrees of the grade, but like how much up and down is there? And what is the size of the, the pebbles? Are there pebbles? Are there rocks? Are there a lot of limbs? Is it paved or is it pea gravel? Or, that's what I need to know. And then I have to determine what device I'm going to use, or am I going to borrow their off-road wheelchair? And then I kind of go from there. And I don't go alone, because I always ask for help. I've never been afraid to ask for help. I try not to overuse my friends. Well, my friends and family, I don't care, but colleagues, I try not to ask the same one over and over and over for help. But I just figure, you know what? I went decades of my life not asking for help in any way, shape, or form. And now I'm disabled, and you know what? I'm going to ask for help. I haven't been disabled, but for 13 years, and yes, it'll continue, but I figure I went a long time without asking anybody for help of any kind, and I just kept powering through so many things. And now I figure, you know what? I'm not going to ask for help for all the things, but there's going to be things I need help with. And we all are, for whatever reason. And I'm going to ask for the help that I need. I'm not going to be needy, but I need some help, and I'm going to ask for it. And I'm going to describe to you what I need, what that help looks like. And I'm going to ask for that. And this sounds horrible, but I kind of expect that you'll help me if I ask. I would help someone if they asked me. So I sort of, when I ask, I kind of expect that people will say, okay, we got you. So, yeah.
How about you, Mark?
Information about where I'm going is the most important thing. When I don't want to worry, I'll go to a trail that I've done before, because obviously, if you've made it back home, you're going to do it. But I'm pretty adventurous, and so even some of the birdability descriptions are too conservative for my particular needs, which is fine. I mean, but it's just my needs. But I do like the opportunity to ask someone, are there any stairs? Are there more than 2 stairs? If there are more than 2 stairs, I need someone with me. Is there any deep mud or deep sand? Because my rear 2 wheels still won't get me through that. And side slopes. I don't mind slopes, and my particular chair can do pretty steep. I've done backflips many times. But I can't do side slopes because the front casters on this lightweight chair will send me, it's just like when you're skiing, it's the fall line of the slope, and that's not where you want to go. So that's the one thing that sometimes is a problem. If it's a short distance, I'll get out and just kind of push the chair a little bit. If it's a long distance, I'm not going to do that trail. So knowledge is power.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I found that what I look for when I'm like choosing if I'm going to go and where I'm going to go depends entirely on which disability I am struggling with that day. Because if it's a day where I'm very sick because of my chronic illness, I'm probably going to be birding from bed, maybe my porch. That was like my birding origin story. I was bedridden for like 4 or 5 months back in 2019. And all I could do was look out my window. And I was a naturalist before. Birds were cool, but I wasn't like in love with them. And then one day a red-bellied woodpecker landed on my window like this far from my face. And then it was just downhill from there. And so like I am not above birding from my bed on days where I'm sick. That's how I started. Days where I'm in a lot of pain, I have places where I can bird from my car, or it's a nice sitting spot not far from the parking lot. If I'm feeling good physically, but I'm struggling with, sensory overload and being autistic, I'm not going to a state park or somewhere where I know I'm going to be like losing my patience and be miserable around all those people. So it depends entirely on the day for me, which, is the beauty of having many different options. So some days one place might not work for me and another place will. Another great thing is that I work outside. I teach a lot of my classes outside, and so I already get to spend so much of my workday outside where I'm naturally observing everything around me. So if I don't intentionally get out to go birding that day, like I still spent half the day, like half of my brain is birding, half of it's like teaching. So that's always, you know, really good, especially when I'm not like motivated to do much other than work. But yeah.
Excellent. I think what I look for, I really love to be submerged in a forest. That is my preferred way to bird. And so I will look, my favorite surface is hard packed dirt, unless it's rained. But Mark, I see you shaking, right? Like, and you too, Shauna, I love hard packed dirt because that makes me feel like I'm really in it. And I'm not being separated from the earth with a sidewalk. So if I'm completely submerged in a forest on a hard dirt packed trail, there's nothing better, except I want it to be a 10-mile long trail so that I can wheel until I just, like you guys were saying at the beginning, until I know how long it's going to take me to get back. And I prefer to not be able to go the entire length of the trail because that's really pleasing to have to turn around and have who knows how many miles left. So that's what I would say my preferred wheeling is.
Great. I just received message from Kat that there is one question from the audience. Maybe we could address that unless anyone has something else to add before we get into that.
Oh, I think in many ways it builds exactly off of what you all were talking about, because the question is about how you became a captain, how you ended up a captain, each of you at Birdability. And I know each of you have talked a little bit about that, but I think for folks who are, curious about then how has this experience you're talking about, Virginia or Mark or Shauna or Missy, how is that translated to Birdability for you?
Well, I can tell you that when Birdability began, so many people were contacting me and saying things like, I want to do what you're doing. How do you do that? And what is it? And so I just invited them to be a Birdability captain and then did them all a big disservice by not giving them all the instruction they needed and all the structure. But it was a wonderful way to interact. And, basically Birdability captains are like the lifeblood of it because they will take their ideas and their particular disabilities and apply that to their location. And we have on the website steps to implement Birdability. And these are ways that captains can take that information and identify the accessible parks in their area, and then identify disability support groups and put those two together. So I'm going to let a captain speak now.
Okay, I'll talk.
Okay.
So I started doing accessibility work locally. The Audubon chapter of Minneapolis, the former president, came up to me one day and said, "Hey, Mark, you're the only person I ever see in a wheelchair and I see you all the time. We're interested in diversifying the people who are affiliated with the chapter. Would you help us?" And I said, fine. And so I volunteered to be on the education committee. And then one of the other more experienced event leaders said she would pair with me, and we designed a more accessible, couple hours out birding, and that worked. And then the following year, I organized a few myself, and then applied for being a Birdability captain, last year, so that I would have other resources, because I felt like I was out there alone, and I'm not the only disabled person in Minneapolis. Although the park board thinks I may be, because they consulted me on rebuilding a boardwalk, which is great. But it's been great to get ideas from other people and share ideas, and so that's one of the values of Birdability for me.
Great, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Shauna or
And
Misty. Yeah.
I think I was so new to my disability and also new to birding that I was just seeking to find resources, because that's you know what I do is I investigate and research things, and so I was looking for resources, and when I found Birdability and the mission, it just hit home for me, that we talked about that last week, about being the change you want to see in the world. So things are hard out there, and I don't know where I can go, and I've always done training because I'm in the criminal justice field on safety and things like that. So it just felt like a natural fit for me that I could talk to people. My sphere of influence already knows I talk about safety issues and security and things. So it just seemed like a natural topic that I could then help people that, have different abilities, and just kind of marry the two. So I was so great, got to apply and then have a one-on-one conversation with Virginia, and then it kind of went from there. So super, super happy and proud to be a Birdability captain.
For me, I was, I've been an educator my entire life. My entire adult life. I've been a teacher of some kind with some kind of audience. And, I have a huge heart for people who are in communities that are maybe smaller communities, like the disabled community and the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm reaching a point in my life that retirement is closer than further. And so was thinking, like, I need to be plugged into some organizations that can bridge from now till and through retirement, but that still feed me, but that will allow me to still have an impact on other people. I believe very strongly that I was placed on this earth to help teach people and to help people be better people, feel better, and to give a voice to people who maybe don't feel comfortable with their own voice for whatever reason. And becoming disabled only 13 years ago allowed me to understand a little bit better what it's like to be in a marginalized community. And I want to be that voice. I want to help, and then also spread the joy and let people know that, yeah, things may be more difficult. Maybe something's happened and you have more difficulty getting around than you used to, but I can, Misty can, Mark can, Virginia can, Nicole can, we all can help you find a way to work through that and still get out and enjoy something that maybe you always enjoyed, or let us show you something new and cool that you could still enjoy, maybe differently, but like it's all going to be okay, and we're going to get out there and still enjoy the beautiful world that's around us. And we're going to also band together to make it more accessible for all of us the more we move through time, just make it where it's not a rare occurrence to find something that's accessible, make it a common occurrence to find things that are accessible. And so same thing, I applied and it worked out, and I'm so excited. And I haven't really even, this is my first thing to do as a birdability captain, but I'm so excited to get to do more. And, you know, I'm pretty plugged in with the ADA branch at my own work. And Mark, I too, the job, they consult me all the time, like, come test this for us and tell us, give us the real skinny on, does this work? Can you get down this hallway? How does this boardwalk work for you? And I'm like, well, I'm not the only disabled person in Texas. Like, there's, 20% of Texas is disabled, y'all. So like, I'm not the only person you should be asking. They're like, yeah, but you're here and you will give us the truth. I'm like, well, yeah, I will. So, just being able to help in that way is something that I wanted to be able to continue to do.
I found that so many of the Birdability captains would get back to me after holding an event and just tell me how meaningful it was for them to be able to initiate an event like that, and then to find themselves in a community that way. And I think we cannot underestimate the significance of captains creating their own community. I mean, like, where there once was none, and now there is. And that's really special.
Yeah. Just to add to that, y'all, like, if you don't spend any time with other folks who are disabled, those of us that are on the panel, we spent time together last Tuesday, just sort of preparing, and that meant the world to me, to spend time with other people who get it. It's a lot like, my mom has Alzheimer's. She's dying of Alzheimer's right now. And people who have been through that exact experience, they get it. And yeah, I mean, we all have family members who pass away. It's not the same as Alzheimer's, so when you're with I'm in a support group of other family members who are dying of Alzheimer's, they get it. Other people who are disabled, they get you. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until last Tuesday, when I sat with y'all for an hour, and just went longer than an hour, because it was so amazing. I was like, I didn't know that I needed that. And it's powerful. And I don't want to like wallow in none of it was sad or pity or woe is us. It was just amazing. And that in and of itself, whether we go bird or not, just hanging with people who get it, just fabulous. So do that, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I had a really wonderful experience when I did my very first Birdability event. And I had just collected a handful of women from 3 or 4 different disability groups, and they met at the trail, and they were strangers. They didn't know each other, and they were all in wheelchairs. And so we had a quick introduction, and then I started, down the trail like the leader does. And I'm like, well, do you see that? And do you hear this? And I didn't hear anything. I turned around, and those women had circled up in their wheelchairs. Those virtual strangers had circled up, and I crept backwards, and they were talking about their wheelchairs. They were sharing information about their backpacks and their wheels and their shoes. And they were talking about their coffee mugs, because when you're in a wheelchair, you have to have a coffee mug that you can throw in your backpack. And I was just like, a big smile came on my face, and I was like, guys, you're missing the birds. And then we all laughed. And then I said, oh yeah, it's about people too.
And Virginia, that is I think one of the key pieces, right, as we start to conclude our time together tonight, that this is about birding. Certainly, it's also about community and connections. I think, Missy, it was you saying, like, everybody needs more connections, right? Or maybe that was Shauna. We all need more connection. We all need more community. We all need more information about access. Mark, I heard you being so clear about the most important thing for me is having a lot of good information about what access is, and you know, at each trail, at each site, so that I can determine for myself, right, how I want to engage with that site. Nicole, you sharing, like, you know, on each day, it looks really different what my considerations are, and I need to choose different spots, right? Like community, connection, the recognition, something you said, do it your own way, just really like resonated for me. That is really what Birdability is about. It's about doing it your own way, making sure you have the information to be able to do it your own way, making sure that parks and other birding sites know what we need information wise, but also ways that they can make space more inclusive, right, for everyone. Because I dropped in the chat, something that creates better access for someone with a disability also creates better access for people without disabilities. You know, I need, because of degenerative bone disease, I need benches to be able to like sit and really look. I can't stand. I can usually get myself there with a cane or a walking stick or a crutch, but then I really want to be able to be immersed. That's also great for people with strollers and little kids and people who are just not having a great day. So I'm so grateful to have found you all at Birdability. I'm so grateful that this community exists and that we can keep building it together, because all of this is only possible because we're building it together. You had this amazing idea, Virginia, and you started, you know, talking to people and bringing community in. And really, we're now at the place where everything that happens is about continuing that community, continuing that building, continuing that information sharing. And we're so grateful to all of you who joined us tonight for Birdability Week 2023. And especially thank you so much, Shauna and Misty and Mark and Nicole and Virginia, for sharing your experiences and for really talking about, you know, what it is like to be a birder with access needs. We're all birders with access needs, but talking about the ways that your access needs are met or not met often and how to make that happen is just such a really interesting and fabulous conversation to hear tonight. I'm grateful that we were able to record this so that it will be available for lots of other folks to listen to. It will be available on our YouTube channel. And I do just want to make a request that you get involved in whatever ways you're able. If that is as a volunteer captain, we want you as a captain. If it is wearing a Birdability shirt, if it is talking about Birdability with others in your community, or sending in site reviews, really using that Birdability map for what it's meant for, right? Which is not only receiving information from it, but making it a community fed resource. So we're just so grateful to be here for Birdability Week 2023, our 4th annual Birdability Week, to be lifting up all of this work. And I want to thank Nicole. I especially want to thank you because not only are you a captain and the captain's coordinator, but you are also the force behind Birdability Week this year. And we're so grateful to you for that. So Virginia, anything you want to end with before we?
Yes, and not just this year, but Nicole was last year, and Nicole was the year before that, and I think it's been like 100 years, really.
Right on.
Anyway, I want to thank every Birdability captain because you guys lift me up, and I am so happy that we have Kat, and mainly I'm happy that everyone identified nature and birding as a way to their best selves. And I really think that's what people are finding, is that their best selves are waiting for them on the trails.
Yes. And connected to each other and to birds and to all of the natural world.
That's
I
right.
love that.
Me too.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing you at other Birdability Week events. Please do
Absolutely.
join us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.